You have a speech coming up and you're wondering, how should you exactly practice? Practicing is very important for your speech because it helps you get familiar, and your body loves for things to be familiar. Now granted, your heartbeat is going through the roof because you don't like public speaking. It makes you very nervous. Luckily, in this class, I'm going to give you some beginner's tips on how to practice effectively so you can reduce your speech anxiety and you increase the likelihood of dominating your talk. My name is Arman, the founder of ArmaniTalks, a media company which helps engineers and entrepreneurs improve their soft skills through the use of public speaking, storytelling, emotional resilience, and much more. In this class, you will learn some beginner's tips on the 5X rule, feedback systems, making it tough in the practice sessions, and much more. If you're ready to improve your public speaking game, then I look forward to seeing you inside. There's two types of issues with practicing. One is under practicing, and the other is over practicing. And depending on your personality type, you may fall into one or the other boat. Under practicing is when you're not practicing at all. You're just winging it. And some people can pull off winging a talk, but if you're someone that's already struggling with speech anxiety, then this isn't a smart strategy for you. Now, for the other group of people, you're a perfectionist. You want things to consistently go well, and due to your desire for you trying to get more control, you keep practicing more and more and more, and you're taking out any form of personality that can be in your talk. Instead of feeling better after each practice session, you're starting to condition a very negative attitude of your speech to your perception. We don't want that. We want to make sure that we're practicing in a comfortable manner to a point where once we're ready, we are ready. And I'm going to give you a crystal clear number later on this class to help you and your mind remove the uncertainty. But just understand that there is a thing known as under practicing and over practicing. So at this stage, we're going to be doing the rough draft. I'm assuming that you've done some brainstorming. You have a rough idea of what your talk is about. You have the major points and such. Now, I want you to go in a room by yourself and go through the talk from very beginning to very end. Now, you may be like, but I haven't delivered it yet. I don't know exactly how the line is going to be delivered. That's perfectly fine. For the rough draft section, I just want you to play around. See which ideas are needed and which ideas are not needed. For this stage, we are embracing imperfection and we are gradually removing the imperfection. So to give you an example, imagine that someone came up to me and was like, hey, I want you to give a rough draft on skill sets. How would you recommend becoming a master in any skill set out there? I'll be like, okay, let me think about it. I'll do some brainstorming, and then I'll come away with some key ideas. I'll have the key ideas of learning, of deliberate practice, and of getting a coach. And throughout my talk, I'm going to eventually go into this rough draft chamber, and I'm going to try delivering this talk in a way that sounds smooth. In the beginning stages, it's very bumpy. I don't necessarily know where it's going. I'm going to be like, okay, well, ladies and gentlemen, today you have gathered here to learn more about skill sets. And what better way to learn skill sets than from the masters themselves? And now I'm over here playing around with different stories that I will tell in this talk. And I'm just having a lot of fun. But the more that I'm going from the beginning of the talk to the end of the talk, I'm starting to see this talk become realized before my very eyes. I'm seeing, okay, after experimenting with these stories, this one is going to stick. This point is going to come up next. Then I'm going to transition to this point, and this point. And now I have a great skeleton for what my talk is going to look like. See, different people practice their speech in different ways. Some people like to write down the entire talk and then they just memorize the lines. I'm not a big fan of that. I recommend us starting off high level and then just gradually polishing more and more and more until we know the low level details as well. So you have a rough idea of what your talk is going to look like. Now we need a thing called a feedback system. A typical feedback system is going to be a coach. But let's say you don't have a coach. Two optional methods include the mirror and the camera. So I'll give you my opinion in regards to this. The good thing with the mirror is that as you're practicing the talk in front of the mirror, you can see what you're immediately doing correct and what you're not doing in a correct way. But this pro can also be a con, because rather than being fully in the present moment, you're over here delivering your speech and analyzing yourself at the same time. So with this strategy, I think it's suboptimal. With the camera, on the other hand, it's a different ballgame, because with the camera, your philosophy changes. Now, when you're over here giving the talk, you are fully present in the moment giving the talk. And later on, once you have enough data, you could watch back your film later. And the reason that I say you watch back your film later is because now your perspective changes to the perspective of the audience. Go ahead, pull up your film on a big TV and watch yourself back. This is when you can see, okay, I'm doing this, right? Why am I doing this movement? Why am I walking around so much? How about I dial it back? Rather than aimlessly walking around, how about I project a triangle on the stage, enlarge it, and just walk to each point depending on the point of the speech that I'm on? See, with the feedback system, you are now removing any of the emotions and the subjectivity of it, and you're making this a very objective act. So I would recommend that you stick with the camera, because the camera allows you to be present in the moment and it allows you to have the perspective of the audience members as well. Okay, you have a rough idea of your talk, you have a feedback system. Now you're going to deliver your talk. But here's the catch. Remember earlier how I told you that we don't want to under-practice, nor do we want to over-practice? Well, we want to remove any form of uncertainty by introducing the 5X rule. The 5X rule states that you need to get through your speech to perfection, and any time that you mess up, you need to start all the way back over. It doesn't matter if you're in the last 10 seconds and you fumble, you need to start back over. Now, what do I exactly mean by perfection? Do I mean share your speech verbatim the same way each time? No. I mean delivering your speech in a way that you are satisfied with, which pretty much means get through the high-level points, alter your delivery however you feel is needed to match your message. But ultimately, you are going to decide, hey, did I get through this speech 5 times to perfection? No, in this speech, I forgot a crucial point in the 2-minute mark. I have to start back over. Each time that you are starting back over and you're getting through the speech to perfection, the speech goes in your subconscious mind. On speech day, you are going to remember the speech. You don't need any index cards. You will embody the speech. This will allow you more bandwidth in order to focus on the engaged members in the audience, to smile every now and then, to take a pause, to use your palms, and much more. So 5 times to perfection, I'm giving you a target to follow, and now your mind has that certainty. Once you hit the 5X rule, you want to stop. Did you ever watch the show Dragon Ball Z growing up? That was one of my favorite shows. And one part of the show that I loved a lot was this thing called the gravity chamber. This is when a lot of the powerful people would train in this chamber, and they would make it super difficult on themselves. The gravity was 5,000 times deeper, which made it difficult to do even the most basic of tasks, like walking, like running, even breathing. But the reason that these heroes put themselves in this chamber was because they were battle testing themselves, because if they tested themselves during practice sessions, then by the time it was for real battle, they were ready. And we could apply this similar idea with a public speaking practice. I have a philosophy. I believe you need to make it very difficult on yourself as you're practicing, because when you make it very difficult on yourself, on actual speech day, you've seen it all. And here's one example that I give in terms of making it difficult for yourself. So think about it like this. The heartbeat. Whenever the heartbeat is racing very fast right before you're about to get on stage, doesn't that worry you? It used to worry me. I used to be very nervous about that rapid heartbeat, and I used to think, what would other people say if my voice was quivering from the very beginning? So what I did was during my practice sessions, I would do a bunch of push-ups right before I was over here practicing my speech. Now, in this scenario, I am simulating a very similar response of the rapid heartbeat, and I'm teaching my body how to breathe through it during the practice sessions. During practice, no one's going to judge me, so let me make the hardest part in the moment when no one is going to see me. This is just one example, but you could play around with different ways in order to make it difficult for yourself. Let's say you're someone that gets cold very easily. Well, what if on actual speech day, the place that you're going to give your speech at is a very cold area? Why not get a head start? Instead of being blindsided when you go to the speech area and you're just shivering away, how about when you're practicing your speech, you make it very cold? By doing this, you're tricking yourself to thrive in uncertainty. And the more that you can thrive in uncertainty, speech anxiety doesn't bother you as much. Instead, you're embracing it. It's like whenever someone scares you, like let's say they jump out of the corner and they're like, ah, and you're not expecting it, and then you're terrified. You're like, whoa, man, don't do that to me. But after the 10th time of this person pulling this trick every now and then, now you expect it. And when you expect it, you're not terrified anymore. Instead, this person simply becomes a joke. So in the last video, I was giving you some advice on making it difficult for yourself in the physical element, such as doing some push-ups right before you're about to practice, such as making it very cold if you don't like the cold. In this video, I want to give you some tips on making it difficult for yourself mentally. One rule is what I call the 100x rule. If you're supposed to be giving your speech in front of 5 people and that's getting you nervous, mentally, times it by 100. You're giving it to 500 people. You may be like, oh man, I feel very, very uncomfortable right now. 500 people, but I'm getting nervous with even 5. Don't worry, you're over here practicing by yourself. Simply create that narrative in your mind, then begin practicing your talk in front of the feedback system. Simply with this narrative, you feel more bold. You feel as though your moves are being amplified. There's this fire that's being unleashed from within you. This is one strategy. Another strategy that gets a lot of hate is known as negative visualization. Now, the reason that this gets a lot of hate is because people have the wrong perception of it. They believe that you're over here just visualizing yourself getting into some drama, and then you leave it at that. No. Instead, negative visualization is you facing some sort of conflict and rising anyways. So let's say when you're over here practicing your speech, you're like, what's going to happen if a baby begins crying? You simply create that narrative. And then as you're over here giving your talk, somewhere in the talk, you're feeling very humorous and you're like, hey, look, a crying baby. And if you could find a way to incorporate that into your talk, your charm just amplifies even more. This is a situation where you were presented with a conflict, but you didn't stop at the conflict. Instead, you rose above anyways. So one strategy to make it difficult for yourself is to 100 times the audience that is expected. And another way to make it difficult for yourself is to practice negative visualization. One to 2 days before the speech, I want you to stop practicing. See, a lot of people are going to completely skip this step. They're going to be practicing the night before the speech. Heck, they're going to be practicing the day of the speech. This isn't smart from my experience. The reason why is because these people are signaling to their subconscious mind that they're not ready. And not only that, they're also neglecting a lot of the other stuff that's needed for their speech, such as their clothes. This person that's over here practicing a little too much, 1 hour before their talk, they're like, oh wait, I need to get ready. So they go in their closet, they take out their shirt, and the shirt that they were supposed to wear for their talk, they're like, wait a minute, there's this big stain on it. Okay, fine, I have this backup shirt, but with this backup shirt, it's too tight around the collar. Now they're over here ironing it, and they're like, all right, let me see how long it's going to take me to get there. And they see that there's an accident on the road. They're like, oh no, what's going to happen now? Okay, I don't have time to iron it. And now their shirt is all wrinkly. They show up, they're nervous. Other people are pointing it out like, hey, you didn't iron your shirt before this big talk. And this is just a mess. So 1 to 2 days before your speech, stop practicing and focus on the logistics. Get your clothes ready. Get your shoes ready. Is there going to be parking? Is this place far from you? The more that you're focusing on this other stuff, the more that you're signaling to your subconscious mind, hey, the speech stuff, that's already taken care of. Let me focus on this. Once you take care of this, aka the logistics, now you just relax. You're going to dominate. Do your best because you have practiced as hard as you could. Now it's time to show the audience what you're made of. Now's the time for the final project. I want you to record one talk of yours where you get it through perfection by your standards from beginning to end. And this talk can be about whatever for however long. If you have no clue where to begin, I want you to talk about how to learn a particular subject, and I want you to make it roughly 3 to 4 minutes long. I don't want to be too specific with it because then you won't have fun. Go ahead, create a rough draft of the talk, polish it up until you are satisfied, and then record it. Anytime you mess up, start all the way back over. Once you have your final take, go ahead, get that video and post it on the final project section right on below. I look forward to watching it. If you enjoyed this beginner's class on public speaking and want to learn more about how to dominate your talk and become better at expressing your ideas, be sure to check out ArmaniTalks.com, which has plenty of my blogs, my videos, podcasts, and much more. ArmaniTalks.com. Go on and check it out.